We suggested in the previous section that syllables have structure. That's what we're going to start by looking at now. Let's suppose that vowels are at the centre of it and that consonants are at the periphery, and the reason for that is very simple. You have to talk by opening and shutting your mouth. It's very difficult to speak with your mouth entirely shut, and it's just as difficult to speak with your mouth entirely open. So syllables are the result of the opening and shutting of the mouth. Consonants, of course, can be optional. You can move from one vowel to the other. Well, languages differ in terms of what types of syllables they allow. In a number of languages, Maori being one of them, there is only one consonant followed by a vowel, and even that poor consonant is optional. What happens, of course, when words move from one language to another is that the syllable structure comes first, and so if there is a consonant cluster at the beginning of a borrowed word into Maori or Japanese, it has to be broken up. And if there is a consonant at the end, well, it has to have a vowel after it, because that is what the syllable structure prescribes. So the English word coat, which ends in a T, has a vowel put after it in Japanese, because Japanese also has to have a final vowel. Let's suppose that the syllable structure of every syllable in every language consists of a nucleus, which is the central vowel, or a diphthong perhaps, and the onset of the syllable are the initial consonants, and the coda are the final consonants. What we've just said is some languages don't allow a coda. On top of that, there is a rhyme part of the structure which we can recognize, and we'll talk about a lot later, when the central vowel and the coda together form the rhyme. So, nucleus plus coda equals rhyme. How does that look? Let's look at the word dog. And let's say dog is one syllable, and we use the Greek sigma for syllable. So what's the onset? The onset is the D, and the rhyme is the nucleus plus the coda. So there we have it. The onset is just D. That's the first consonant. There are no others at the beginning. The nucleus is the central vowel, O, and the coda is G. And together, dog has an onset. And a rhyme? Well, the rhyme is og. So dog rhymes with fog and bog and hog. That's how it goes. Well, we're used to rhymes as being part of poetry. Rhyming in poetry involves the same rhyme constituent appearing on the last rhyme of a line. So, if we have I saw a door, what is it for? Then door rhymes with for. If we take the onset away, the D and the F, what we're left with is or, and those are the same in those two lines. So these are the normal kind of rhyme. You can also get internal rhyme with saw and door in the first line. If you cut off the S and cut off the D, you get or, and those two rhyme. That is, their nucleus and their coda are the same. Well, in poetry, traditionally in Western poetry, there have been rhyme schemes, and these are ways of organizing the rhymes at the ends of lines. In a couplet, two lines have a rhyme at the end of each. In the 18th century, most English poetry had couplets. That is, stuff came out in rhymes at each end. So people like Pope and Dryden wrote in couplets. That is, lines where each ended with the same rhyme. In the case of ballads, these were four-line verses, and the rhyme there was a little different. It wasn't adjacent lines which rhymed. The first line didn't rhyme at all, but the second line rhymed with the fourth line. And in the next verse, the second line rhymed with the fourth line, and so on. In sonnets, which are very ornate forms, there are 14 lines. Mr. Petrarch, who was an Italian, rhymed his as though he was later going to form a pop group. ABBA, ABBA. That was for the first 8 lines, and then the last 6 lines rhymed CDE, CDE, with the 9th line and the 10th, 11th, 12th line rhyming, and the 10th line rhyming with the second to last line, and the 11th line rhyming with the last line. Well, if you've ever tried to write Petrarchan sonnets, you'll know that this isn't a piece of cake. It's quite hard getting rhymes to work in this way, and Mr. Petrarch must have had a lot of spare time. Mr. Shakespeare, a little later, decided to write his sonnets differently. His first 4 lines, the first and the third line rhymed, and the second and the fourth line rhymed, and so forth, until he got to the last 2 lines, and they were a couplet. They rhymed the 13th line and the 14th line with exactly the same rhyme. We now come to something which sounds contradictory. We said that vowels are the nucleus of a syllable. Well, occasionally a vowel disappears, and then what happens is a consonant becomes the nucleus. Now notice that this is apparently contradictory. We said that vowels are the nucleus of a syllable, and in a word where the word is stored in your mental lexicon, that's still the case, but phonetically sometimes a consonant takes over the role of a vowel. The particular kind of consonant has to be in the coda, and it has to be one of the following 3. L, M and N. They're the only 3 in English that can take over the central position in a syllable, the nucleus position. Well, syllables are also related to stress. We don't stress individual sounds, we stress syllables. Some syllables in a language can be more prominent than others, and these are the stressed syllables, and we have more to say about that later. Stress in most languages is related to the location of the syllable in a word. Where does the syllable come? Well, let's have a look. Which is the stressed syllable in these words? Income, income, income. It's the first syllable that gets the stress. Stupid, first syllable. Become, become, it's the second syllable. And induce, it's also the second syllable. Phantom, first syllable. Where is it? Well, conventionally, one counts syllables from the end of the word. The last syllable is the ultimate syllable, and in French, the stress normally falls on the last syllable. If we go back and pretend that we're French speakers, a French person would say income, stupid, and the French word, of course, is stupide. Become and induce are perfectly good French words as far as their stress is, but phantom would be pronounced fantôme. And those of you who've watched Allo Allo will know that there are people pretending to be French speakers, and they have learnt this little rule, and they put the stress on the final syllable, the ultimate syllable. The penultimate syllable is the place for the stress in some words and some languages. If you look at the Italian word for greasing a car, it's lubricazione, lubricazione. It's the last syllable. No, it's the second to last syllable, lubricazione, that gets the stress. The third to last, the antepenultimate syllable, is the place for the stress in still other words, and so forth. We don't go beyond the pre-antepenultimate, and you'll notice how nice this system is. The ultimate, the penultimate, the antepenultimate, and the pre-antepenultimate. And all this is done with prefixes. Remember prefixes? It's a long time ago, isn't it?